Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. So, as I said before, we're doing this book after Bayquniya. So a lot of details have already been covered. So we're just going to go through it again. And what we've already covered, no need to go redo it again. So when you're watching this, it's mukhtasar, it's very short because we've covered all this already in Bayquniya. Okay. So we have hadith maqbool, correct? Then we have hadith mardud. So we did maqbool, and then we do maqbool. This is what shuduz or illa, or not shuduz. There's mukhalafa, there's mu'arada, there's ziyada. We explain those concepts. So now we're moving on to the mardud, correct? And in mardud we said here, there are two reasons, because obviously hadith sahih has to be what? Muttasil, which is what? Ittisal, and it has to have the zabt. So there are two aspects which makes a hadith mardud. The inqita' in the sanad, or eb in the rawi. So in Bayquni we said, we experienced already, you have saqt, you can have a saqt zahir. What can we have? An apparent, a clear drop, which means that the rawi, and from whom he's narrating, we can clearly tell they have not met. Are you following? Or you can have saqt khafi. Okay? And in mursal, what's a mursal? Recap for me, what's a mursal according to the mustalah? Correct. Sahabi is mean drop. A mu'allaq is where? Breakage from where? From the beginning of the chain. And that's why you have the beginning of the chain. Correct? Meaning what? Imam Malik says, Qala Rasulullah. Imam Bukhari says, An ibn Umar. And from the beginning of the chain, one or more is made. A mu'adal is when you have what? Two. But they're what? Mutawaliyan. Two. One after the other. Okay, and then you have munqati generally. And then I explain a bit more detail. And then you have saqt khafi, where you can't clearly tell where the drop's coming from. There's another illa. Meaning they're in the same era, but what happens? So just by knowing the dates, you can't tell if they met. You can't. So for example, we did this already before. Just a quick recap. If somebody passed away 90, the English numbers, yeah. Somebody passed away 95. He was born 92. So they couldn't have met. He was 3 years old, or he was born 96 Hijri. You know this is munqati because he couldn't have met him. Are you following? So that's just by knowing the dates. And then here you say, well, he was born 95. He passed away 95. He was born 80, or he was born even 70. So they were in the same era, but they still didn't meet. But you wouldn't know that by knowing the dates, would you? You would have to know a bit more about them, where they travel, who they are, who they met, why they didn't meet, etc., etc. You following? So indeed you have mudallas and mursal khafi, and we discussed that as we go along. And then we have saqt ta'an fi ra. So this is called saqt, meaning there's a droppage in the link, there's a missing chain. And the second one is ta'an. There's no missing chain, but there's a problem in the rawi. His credibility or his zabt is questionable. His credibility is questionable. Okay? So it's saying here, فَالسَّقْتُ إِمَّا أَن يَكُونَ مِن مَبَادِئِ السَّنَدِ أو من آخره بعد التابعي. So first of all, before we even explain this, we have the sanad, and the sanad has two parts. What's the first part? You have مبادئ السند, also called, Bismillah. It's also called ibtida'u sanad. Where's this? What's this part? This is where? Exactly, beginning of the chain. For example, Al-Bukhari. So when Bukhari says, حدثنا محمد بن يوسف قال مالك, that's the beginning of the chain. And the آخره is called what? بعد التابعي, right at the end. Correct? So he's saying here, the saqt, the missing link, can either be at the beginning of the chain by the narrator, or after the tabi'i, or somewhere else. So you can option 1, option 2, and option 3. This is how we say. It doesn't do like us baby language. وَهِيَ ثَلَاثَةُ أَقْسَامٍ الْقِسْمُ الْأَوَّلِ. They do like this, how they do it. They say 3 possibilities. الأول ذا, والثاني ذا, والثالث ذا. فالأول المعلق. The first was called معلق. Are you following? The first was called معلق. You following? And it's also called what? تعليق. Okay, you have تعليقات. Now here, this is digress, not digress, let's just explain it here. So a ta'liq by definition is what? Generally speaking, by definition, what ta'liq going to be? What kind of hadith? Is that sahih or not sahih? It's not maqbool, isn't it? It's mardud, by generally speaking. Why? Because we don't know who's narrating. However, that's a general rule of thumb generally. However, for example, if like Imam Bukhari has many ta'liqat, he would say, for example, he would have a hadith says, he would say, حدثنا عبد الله بن يوسف قال حدثنا مالك عن نافع عن ابن عمر عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, that's متصل. Then he might have a chain which says, Malik would say, وقال ابن عمر, that's mu'allaq. Correct? So, generally saying we don't know. However, if the rawi, if the author of the book, he has generally gone, if you find, for example, one possibility is you find this same narration somewhere else. What do? You find this same narration somewhere else, which is muttasil. Then it's not a problem, is it really? You found it. It's like Imam Bukhari mentioned it mu'allaq as a ta'liq. He didn't mention the whole chain, because for whatever reason, he may have to do that in Bukhari and his manhaj later on. He didn't mention the whole chain. So, but we found a chain somewhere else. So then we say, well, the ruling of the mawsul, the muttasil chain, we'll find that rule and put it onto the mu'allaq. So if there's, so let's say for example, the missing chain was Abdullah ibn Yusuf from Malik, from Nafi, from Abdullah ibn Umar. Well, this is sahih. So then it's also sahih. The mu'allaq is sahih as well. So in Bukhari and even Muslim, rahmatullahi alayhima, they have many ta'liqat in their books. With this, especially Imam Bukhari, he's got many of them. So are these da'if? By definition, yes, they are mardud. But however, many of the ta'liqat Imam Bukhari has mentioned, you find them mawsul, with a muttasil chain elsewhere. And when they've done tatabbu' and they've looked at all of these, they found that Imam Bukhari's ta'liqat are what? We have credible maqbool links, all maqbool. So the itself is not, by definition, it's a munqati, so therefore it has a missing link, so therefore it's what? Not maqbool. But when you compare it to the mawsul, or when you look at Imam Bukhari's manhaj, they will say, well, Imam Bukhari's mu'allaqat are by and large accepted. Are you following me? Yes? You got it? Okay. Okay, so this is called the mu'allaq, the ta'liqat of Al-Bukhari, rahimahumullah. The next one is a mursal, meaning here, so this is now what? So you're saying al-awwalu, this is what? Al-ta'liq, this is ta'liq. Al-awwal al-ta'liq. Al-thani huwa al-mursal, this is al-thani, this is mursal. Okay? Now regarding mursal, is two things. You have to remember, mursal is used in two ways. You know mursal? Mursal in our definition later, it refers to what? It refers to that narration where the sahabis missed out. You got it? But other people have used the word mursal and towards me what? Any munqati, and any saqt. Are you following me? So any saqt is also, some people have used the word mursal to mean any saqt. Anything that is dropped. Anything that is dropped is what? Mursal. So when we use it, generally speaking, it refers to when a sahabi is missed out. Are you following? When a sahabi is missed out. However, in the earlier, before these terms were concreted, many people use the word mursal to refer to what? Any hadith. So basically everything is a mursal. Similarly, everything is a munqati. Munqati means this breakage. So saqt, mursal, munqati, according to some, is all the same. So you have to make sure that you know what is meant by this. Are you following? That's point number one. Point number two is, so mursal, we say here, he's classified mursal under what? Under da'if, under mardud. However, it's not, obviously it's Shafi'i, this is a Shafi'i predominant opinion. The earlier fuqaha, like Imam Malik and Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi, they would look at certain marasil, mursal, this definition, and accept them. Okay? For example, if the rawi was one of the kibar of what? The tabi'in, tabi'in. And he is known to only narrate from credible, like from Sahaba. And his majority of narration from Sahaba. Then with certain circumstances, they will say, so Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa, rahmatullahi alayhi. Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa, they came early as well, so they met the, not any mursal, but what? When the tabi'i is what? A very high level. and he misses out a Sahabi, then we say, well, because usually he narrates from the Sahaba, not from the other Tabi'in. So therefore what? So therefore, we would accept it with certain conditions, and this is an ikhtilaf. Not every mursal, but in certain conditions, if there's a kibar, and it also this is a big ikhtilaf, you can read in the books. But for now, that's a general idea. So Imam Malik, Abu Hanifa, that's a slight variation in this. Imam Shafi, he has got a condition, but the conditions don't really benefit. Because if there's another hadith that says it, muttasil, then you're not following the mursal, you're following the muttasil, innit? So his one condition, if there's another muttasil hadith, then if there's another muttasil, the same in the mursal, then you're really following the muttasil and mursal. So he's got the condition as well, but this is a brief introduction to this. The next one we have is the thalith, which is what? The third one we have here. أو غير ذلك, meaning it's not muttasil, it's not mu'allaq, or it's not mu'allaq, it's not mursal. So then, in kan, it's the third one, meaning it's not at the beginning, not at the end, it's something else. If it's two or more together, it's mu'adhal. Wa illa, if it's none of these, then it's what? Munqati. You get it? I told you, remember that munqati and murs, you have, this is what now, this becomes the standard in modern, like post Ibn Hajar and later era. But earlier, munqati can mean anything. Any of these you call munqati. So if you see a book, the earlier scholars might have said inqita, it can mean anywhere. Some have used that term. Mursal can mean anywhere there's irsal. That's why you remember we have mursal khafi. Remember mursal khafi? We have mudallas and mursal khafi. So that mursal khafi really munqati khafi. You get what I'm saying? Because the mursal khafi, when you say mursal khafi, coming up later on in saqt khafi, it's not mursal sahabi, but sahabi is being dropped off khafi. Mursal means what? Munqati, inqita khafi. So the word mursal there is in the meaning of munqati. And munqati can mean general. So we have ta'liq, we have mursal, we have ta'liq, we have mursal, and we have mu'allaq, mursal, mu'addal and munqati. But these words munqati and mursal can be used to encompass any kind of drop. Are you following me? وإلا, if it's not otherwise, وإلا otherwise. Meaning what? We have three possibilities: from the beginning, the end, or something else. If it's in the beginning, it's going to be mu'allaq. So the end is going to be mursal. If it's none of the two of them, it's going to be. If it's not the two of them, if it's two or more, it's called mu'adhal. And if it's not two or more, it's called munqati. That's what some people have used, munqati, all of them. But here he's saying munqati is any drop which is not mu'adhal, not mu'allaq, or not what is it called? Mu'allaq, not mursal, or not mu'adhal. And then it's munqati. But you can use some people use munqati for all of them as well. Everybody understand the text? You following? ثم قد يكون واضحا أو خفيا. And sometimes it is واضح, sometimes it's خفي. What does واضح mean? Very obvious. What does obvious mean? فالأول يدرك بعدم التلاقي. Meaning, the first one is understood by عدم التلاقي. How is it understood as in what? عدم التلاقي. That you can understand, you can comprehend that the saqt is what? Occurred because of not having talaqi. Didn't meet. So it didn't meet, then you know it's a saqt. Obviously you know it's mursal because they haven't met. You know that what? It's وَمِن ثَمَّ. What min thamma came before? Due to this, because of this, احتيج إلى التاريخ. You need to know history. And you need to know the dates, wafiyat, the dates of death, dates of birth. Are you following? You need to know dates of birth and dates of death. Are you following? Correct? And then the thani, what is thani? What's thani here? So this is al-awwal and a thani. Al-awwal and a thani. Al-thani is what? Al-mudallas. You've done mudallas already before. What's mudallas? When you have a narration where a person narrates to somebody who is met, but he hasn't heard that narration from. وَيَرِدُ بِصِيغَةٍ تَحْتَمِلُ اللُّقِيَّةِ كَأَنْ وَقَالَ. Is where a narrator narrates from his shaykh something he has not heard from him. With a sigha, بِصِيغَةٍ, with a sigha which shows the possibility, تحتمل, carries the possibility. Carries the possibility of luqi. Carries the possibility of what? Meeting. Ka'an wa qala. Like an qala. Yes? So the second is mudallas, meaning when is saqt khafi is called a mudallas. And this is, what are they to do? To occur, to come. This occurs, or this comes about, bisighatin, with a word or a formula of ada. Remember to the sighatul ada? The sighatul ada, which is ihtimal of luqi, like ana, mu'annan, mu'an'an. Correct? So he doesn't say that he said it, but you might think is. So that's called now tadlis. Okay? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. So continuing from what we were doing on Friday. So we were saying here that we have a mudallas and we have a mursal khafi. So a mudallas and mursal khafi is when we have a narration from somebody whom there is mu'asara, meaning the rawi and the person who is narrating from, they have mu'asara, meaning they are in the same era. Correct? However, in mudallas is that they have liqa. They have met. Okay? They've met, but he's not heard that particular hadith. Okay? And mursal al-khafi, we mentioned this already, and mursal al-khafi is where من معاصر لم يلق من حدث عنه. He hasn't met the shaykh. So we have here, for example, al-rawi. We have al-rawi. And then we have the one he's yarwi anhu, or a shaykh. It's not really a shaykh, but the one he's relating from. If there is no mu'asara, if they are ghayr mu'asir, what would this be? If they're ghayr mu'asir, they're not in the same era. This can either be what? This can be, you can call it munqati', yes? Or as-saqt, it's called munqati', you can call it as-saqt zahir, a very apparent droppage in the chain. That's called saqtun zahir. Correct? You follow? If there is mu'asara, they're both in the same era, but it's la liqa, there's no liqa, never ever met between the rawi and the shaykh. What's this going to be? This is going to be what now? Mursalun khafiyun. And if there is what? Mu'asara and liqa. Wal liqa. There's mu'asara and liqa, but he hasn't heard this particular hadith. What's this going to be called? This is going to be called what? Mudallas. Or more particularly, it's called what? Tadlisul isnad. Called tadlisul isnad. Understood? Is that clear to everybody? So, just to recap, we have this sanad, we have this chain here. حدثنا الشافعي عن مالك أخبره عن نافع عن عبد الله بن عمر أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال. If we have this sanad, and Abdullah ibn Umar رضي الله تعالى عنه is missing, what's this going to be called? This is going to be called what? Mursalun. If you have this chain, and after Shafi'i misses out one person, what's this going to be called? It's called mu'allaq because the narrator has missed out somebody above him. And if you have two missing here, it's going to be called what? It's called mu'adhal. And if you have multiple people missing, or we have, this can be called what? This can also be called mu'allaq. This can be called mu'allaq. It's called mu'allaq as well. And all of these, and one way of looking at it is what? We can call all of these what? These are all called munqati'. So sometimes the word munqati' is used as a general term, munqati', or sometimes some people also, not commonly, but you prefer to all break it as mursal. Okay? Right? These are all a form of munqati'. And then we can have here tadlis, is for example Abu Awana from A'mash from Ibrahim at-Taymi. So we say here the A'mash and Ibrahim at-Taymi, if you look at the dates of birth and date of death, he passed away in 92, he was born in 61. So there's mu'asara. Is mu'asara. Now, if they didn't have liqa, what would this be? If they didn't have liqa, this would be what? Mursal khafi, correct. And if they had liqa, but he didn't hear this particular hadith, what's it going to be called? What is it actually? Mudallas. What kind of mudallas? Tadlisul isnad. Understood? So so what we covered so far, we covered hadith maqbool, hadith mardud. And hadith mardud, we said what? There are two types of two causes of hadith being mardud. One is the hadith is mardud because of saqt, and we discussed the types of saqt zahir or saqt khafi. And the next lesson we're going to discuss the ta'an, fir rawi, the rawi. He is weak, therefore the narration becomes weak. Okay? But just as a rule of thumb, every single one of those is not weak. For example, if you have, for example, a mursal from a kibaru tabi'i, and he only narrates from Sahaba, then his mursal is accepted according to the earlier scholars. Or if there's a tadlis, but that person only does tadlis from some of them, some mudallas, not all of them, some of them, like Imam Bukhari, some of them, like Shu'bah. Some people do tadlis, but the tadlis is acceptable because they only do tadlis from thiqah. Okay, and in their time, it wasn't such a big era. But generally speaking, those types of munqati are not acceptable. Similarly, the ta'liq of Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah, they are accepted. So generally speaking, if there's a inqita, it is general rule of thumb, it is mardud because of the saqt. But there are exceptions based on circumstances. Okay, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.